And welcome to another edition of Triple Threat. We are the all talk, no music show online about the Beatles, Pink Floyd, and The Who. We are your three hosts this time around. My name is Tom Rutia, and to my left is Avery Spencer.
Here.
And Garrett Hicks. And today we are going to be covering George Martin. It's been 10 days since he passed. George Martin, of course, big part of the Beatles musical world, their producer.
Award-winning author of Game of Thrones.
No.
Did you see that story of people who were like, who misread the announcement and like, oh my god, now there'll never be a fifth Game of Thrones book.
Well, he is getting old anyway. But no, this is not George R.R. Martin. No, this is George Martin, producer of the Beatles, also played on a lot of their records, producer of a lot of other artists like Jeff Beck and America and even Elton John. And so we're going to be talking a little bit about him, but we don't want to make this too sad of a show. We want to celebrate him, and we're also going to tie this into this year, 2016, is the 10th anniversary of the Beatles Cirque du Soleil show, Love. So we're going to be talking about that soundtrack because it was, I believe, George Martin's last Beatle project that he worked on.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there's a documentary coming out that he worked on before he passed away, but I think that's all of the artists that he worked with, called Soundbreaking. So guys, let's just get right into it. George Martin, a huge part of Beatles world. Let's just start with where we were or what we remember when the news hit. Garrett, what about you?
I saw it because it was trending. I saw it because it was trending on Facebook. That people were sharing. Oh, look, it happened. And I thought, well, he was old. He was 90.
He was.
And that's a good long life. So, right on, George. And so I just immediately shared one of my favorite things that he'd done, which we'll talk about later because it's on Love.
It's on Love. Yeah, I was a similar way. I found it on Facebook because I subscribed to a Beatles news page, Fab for Free for All, shout outs. And they were posting and they said there are rumors that George Martin has passed away. I so hope this is a hoax. And people kept posting, yeah, it's true, it's on his Wikipedia page. And says, no, it's not true. Wikipedia, can lie sometimes.
Yeah.
And then to the point, I was on vacation in New Orleans to the point where I just put my phone down and I said, you know what, by tomorrow morning it'll be confirmed or denied for real. I'm just going to go to bed because I didn't want to go to bed, all sad like I did when David Bowie passed. Mm-hmm. So I was just like, I'm going to shut my phone off. And then sure enough, when I woke up the next morning, it had been confirmed. Yeah, he passed away. So that's how I found out. Avery, how did you find out about that he passed?
I plead the fifth.
You don't want to tell?
I'll say I was definitely not in class and checking my phone when this happened.
Okay. As long as you
I
were
was
being
definitely not
responsible.
on the footboard looking through articles.
As long as you were.
But I saw it on The Guardian, so I knew it was real. It wasn't like seeing Wikipedia. Like it was, I saw it first and pretty official. I'm pretty sure it was The Guardian I saw it on.
To be fair, The Guardian is not the best source for.
Let's not argue. Let's not argue this.
Well, like I said, Wikipedia is not the greatest source either.
Exactly.
But it was correct.
Right.
But yeah, like there were also Ringo had posted at like 11 o'clock p.m. and the rumors hadn't spread until about midnight. And so people thought Ringo's account had been hacked.
I think I saw Paul's tribute first.
Paul posted, he posted the next day when it had been announced.
Okay.
And Paul wrote.
Or I might have used it with Nancy Reagan. Like I saw like tributes to Nancy Reagan, but I didn't see any stories about her death. I was like, why are they tributing her?
Yeah, it's a little bit weird. But yeah, Paul wrote a really great post talking about how he considered George a musical father, and he shared the story about how yesterday he brought it in as a to hopefully do a Beatles piece, and the other Beatles said no, Paul, we should do this alone. And George Martin came up with the idea, well, if you're going to do it alone, let's put some strings on it. Paul's like, I don't know about that, and it was a really nice story that he shared.
Yeah.
He was the sixth Beatle.
Who's the fifth then?
Up who?
Up.
Oh no!
Well, high five.
God.
I was hoping you'd say those exact words.
God.
Oh,
come on, man.
Well, as Paul said,
Sergeant Pepper's lonely.
Well, as Paul said in the episode, he's like, "Sure you were, Apu." But if I had to pick my fifth Beatle, it would be George Martin.
Yeah, George Martin was the fifth Beatle.
Yeah, I would say.
I was just setting you up for a punchline.
But
there are a lot of people who could be the fifth Beatle, but George Martin is probably the best candidate.
He's probably the most deserving.
Yeah, like I said, now he was not only their producer, but he
played on the records.
He played on the records, yeah, but also gave them musical suggestions. Like there's been stories of he would be Beatles would go to him and say, "Hey, we used this sound on a previous record. What can we do this time? Or what ideas do you have, George?" So I would definitely put him in the fifth Beatle category. So it's a very sad loss for music.
Dude, this whole year has been sad losses.
People
for music.
People on Facebook have been saying "F this year."
Like, yeah, this is the year the music died.
Yeah, thank you, Don McLean.
I mean,
But yeah, it's true. We lost Bowie. We lost Glenn Frey of the Eagles.
Keith Emerson,
Natalie Cole,
now George Martin,
and now George Martin. It's very sad.
Famous people are dropping left and right. Not even the Reagans are safe.
So yeah, it's just one of those things that I have to step back and just like I said, well, it's really sad.
Yeah, somebody form a protective circle around the Who.
Yeah, those two.
There's nothing. Protective circle can protect you from old age.
Shush.
So that's that old riddle about time.
Well, it's very sad. So rest in peace, George Martin. Thank you so much for your musical influence on not just the Beatles, but people who listened to Beatle records and then were influenced by them, and all the other artists he worked with, like I said, Jeff Beck and Elton John. Rest in peace, Sir George Martin. Got to put the Sir in there. So, guys, let's turn the tables and let's look at the positive. This year, 2016, marks the 10th year anniversary of the Beatles Cirque du Soleil show Love. It has been in Las Vegas, I believe. It's run continuously since 2006.
I want to say that's right. I think it might have stopped a year or two ago.
Okay, well, because it's their 10th anniversary, I believe there's talk that they might revamp it. They might maybe add some stuff in it. That'll be cool to see. I haven't seen the show.
How would they, considering the whole thing is it's all based off the album? It's not like they try and get George Martin back now to make new tracks.
Well, he made it in collaboration with his son Giles.
And Giles has access to all the multi-tracks, and you keep in mind there's 26 tracks on the album. There's more than 26 tracks in the Beatles library.
Well, yeah.
It seems a little, I don't know, something about it seems a little in poor taste to me.
Well, and something that we'll discuss as we go through, there are songs that you listen to and think, yeah, that could be in the Beatles show Love, so I wouldn't be surprised if they...
But, I mean, like, doing it like George Martin seems a little bit in poor taste to me.
Maybe.
I doubt it was, planned, or
I know, I'm not saying that.
Okay. I see what you're saying. But there's talk it might be, maybe some new music, some new choreography. Have you guys ever seen the show? Or
no?
I've always seen clips of the show on their website when it was coming out in 2006.
I think I've seen brief clips in the making of, and that's about it.
I saw a documentary about the making of, which had some clips from the final project, but I haven't seen it. My dad has seen it though, and he said it was awesome.
Yeah, from what I've heard, not only is it great visually, but the seats have speakers, in front of you, behind you, and even in your ears.
Nice.
So it's a full Beatles immersion. Like maybe in front of you on stage, you might hear John's voice coming from the big speakers in the house, and maybe in your ears you'll hear the backing vocals.
Cool.
So that's just what I've heard again from the Fab Four Free For All. But it sounds really cool, and one of these days, hopefully, I'll get to see the show.
Yeah, that would be great. I'd love to see it.
So, guys, we're talking about the soundtrack, so let's just dive right in because we got 26 tracks to talk about, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on some of them.
Yeah.
Because some of them are not that different, some of them weren't played well, but some of them are ones that, we need to talk about for what they did with it and how they changed it up. So, shall we begin?
Yeah.
Track 1 is Because, an a cappella version of Because. Really beautiful, I think. Really beautiful way to start the show.
Yeah, I really like the way that this starts. So it just seems very pastoral to begin with, because the first thing you hear is actually the sounds of the birds and stuff.
The wildlife version of Across the Universe?
Yeah, which George Martin produced. And so you just hear all of this very, nature-sounding things. And then the Beatles' vocals come in. And Because is known for its super thick layers of vocals and backing vocals. So it just feels like you're lying in a field, and then this breeze comes by and brings the vocals with you.
I'm just thinking of Across the Universe when they're literally sitting on the grass.
Yeah,
and they're singing that song.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, any thoughts on Because as this opener?
Knowing Because's roots as being was it backwards or just forwards?
Backwards Beethoven.
Yeah, it almost seems like a reflection of a reflection. It's based off Beethoven, but take all the Beethoven out, which I kind of think is really neat. And there's lots of things about this Love in general that describe as really neat.
Yeah,
I kind of like it's like you describe as in this movie, it's like America by way of Japan by way of France.
Okay.
It's kind of like seems like that to me a little bit.
Sure.
Like it's the Beatles are by Beethoven by editing them out again.
Yeah.
And it's also pretty neat to hear because if you heard the Anthology 3 version of Because, which is just the vocals from the album, here there's more gaps in between the phrases, which makes it hard to sing along to in a way.
Yeah, I'll even say even for like tracks that apparently seem to not have any editing, there's actually a lot of really smart editing in it.
Very
We'll get to some of them
definitely.
later, but
Yeah, Giles and George did a terrific job
Yeah.
with the editing.
even when tracks appear and not have anything messed with them, they still have something, and it's really well done.
Usually, no track is left completely untouched.
Right, yeah, even the ones that we'll get to that,
Yeah.
you could fool someone into thinking this was the release version. There is something
We'll
different
get to my
about
favorite
it.
minor change later, though. It's fairly quick.
Okay, track 2, because at the end swells, and then we hit the Hard Day's Night chord that begins track 2, which is Get Back.
And we get a little of the end drums, don't we?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
goes Hard Day's Night chord, drum solo for the end, guitars from the end,
Yeah.
and then into Get Back,
Yeah.
the verses of it.
Man, the build up for this song is so cool.
So cool.
Yeah.
Like it's just you got the building orchestra from Day in the Life.
Yeah, like that last chord.
Which is
Yeah.
is an amazing build up, in its natural state in A Day in the Life.
Right.
But then you place it in other places like the very beginning of Get Back, and you just get the feeling that oh man, it's gonna go down.
Pretty much, you're entering Beatle world, so to speak,
Yeah.
because brought you into that world, and then you're just going at it full
Am
throttle.
I right in saying these only 2 tracks from Let It Be on the album?
Get Back, and I'm looking at the track
Because-
listing myself. Because it's from Abbey Road.
Oh, you're right. It's the only track from Let It Be on the album, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because Phil Spector produced that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Get Back, really great opener. They don't do the whole song, which is something that happens quite a lot in this
Yeah,
album.
that's typical on this.
Right,
Which is okay because they have to fit a lot of songs into this CD.
right. And I'll even when this came out, it also came with a bonus DVD, which included full-length versions of Revolution and Back in the USSR.
Right.
So I don't know if the full song is used in the show, but as far as I know, this and the DVD audio, Get Back, is the same length on both.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a short version, and yeah, just a great opener. I don't have any more thoughts on it. So then it goes into track 3, which is Glass Onion, going from a song in a major key like Get Back, and then you go a little bit minor with Glass Onion. Again, I really like the transition because it's
This is
it's
kind
just
of a bit of everything, though.
oh yeah,
it
is.
says Glass Onion on the thing, but it's really kind of, this is, I think, the most just hobcobble. This is the most
Yeah, there's-
Frankenstein of a song.
Yeah,
not in
there's
a bad
a lot
way.
of-
No, there's a lot of stuff.
There's a
going
lot
on.
of different stuff. Like I think the guitar from Things We Said Today.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
da-da-dum that opens it.
Yeah.
And then there's the hello hello from Hello Goodbye. There's even the little beep 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 from like Only a Northern Song.
This might
Oh,
be
yeah.
the track on the album that resembles its original the least.
Yeah, and actually, I think that helps it
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
Because Glass Onion is kind of annoying.
I like Glass Onion.
I
the
like
original.
Glass Onion.
Kind
But, I
of.
mean, I feel like this is a very different song that I also enjoy. This is probably one of the best examples of the mashup, which is there's a couple big examples of that in the album.
Mhm.
I think so, and there's a lot of things in the just the very limited lyrics they have in this. They really just have the fixing a whole verse and just nothing is real.
Yeah.
So with those 2 lines, which are both from Beatles songs and all the Beatle musical elements behind it, you're right. It's one big giant mashup in
Mhm.
this, which I think is phenomenal. Again, I love the transition and the editing going from Get Back into Glass Onion.
Absolutely, yeah. The sort of leading up to the main part of the lyrics of it it's a little bit disco, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, or the
Yeah.
yeah, I can see that. It's a good point.
And the falsetto vocals in the background going.
It's very 60s, like, psychedelic rock.
In a
oh,
way,
that
yeah.
too, yeah.
In a way, I can imagine on stage like Get Back is like party, and Glass Onion is when all the lights start to come up or something.
Right.
So that's Glass Onion. Any
Okay. Any opinions on Glass Onion? Speak now, forever hold your peace.
It's better. It's better than it was.
I was gonna introduce the next track because the next track is probably not the best, but one of the best simple changes
Yeah.
made. It makes the song just better in general.
And what is it, Avery?
Adding those harmonies in Eleanor Rigby.
There it is.
It sounds it's what the song needed to begin with.
Yeah.
It also changed
It takes that song from like makes it 10 times better.
And it was already really good to begin with.
Oh yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite Beatles songs, and they changed the arrangement where it starts out, a whole verse and a chorus of instrumental,
Right.
and then Paul comes in with look at all the lonely people, and then the track begins.
You go to the verses, which I think is a lot much better way to structure than starting with the verses.
Right, I agree.
And this one, I really love, one thing I forgot to mention is that when Giles and George worked on this, they digitized all the files so that there wasn't a lot of hiss, and which you very much hear in Because, just going back to that one real quickly. But in Eleanor Rigby, it sounds a lot cleaned up. It sounds like Paul is right in your ears.
Yeah.
Because in Revolver, I believe his voice is just in one channel for the majority of it. Here, it's in both, and it's really beautiful. And at the end, we all know at the end when Paul sings the last verse, you also hear, look at all the lonely people. Here they took advantage of that and turned that up higher, so you hear both at the same volume.
Right.
Because I think they knew, it's like, yeah, we know you hear it, so here it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any thoughts on this one, Garrett?
I really like you said, the arranging the intro works a lot that than just
That's
leading
even the best. I think the best bit is like there's almost Queen style harmonies and the I look at all, and they have other versions, other parts of that chorus structured like it's a harmony, and it actually sounds really natural. It doesn't sound like they just pasted the chorus in at different places. It sounds like it's two different people singing.
Right.
I guess so.
That's what I mean when I say the harmonies. That makes that song so much better. Those harmonies in the chorus.
Yeah, it sounds really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
And then Eleanor Rigby ends. Then you hear the very ghostly. I love the ghost sound. That just kind of goes falls away really quickly, and then we go into
it transitions with Julia.
Yeah, a very short instrumental version
as
of
it
Julia.
says here on the box.
Yeah, and then. I don't know where the little kids playing come. I want to say that's from Revolution 9 because
I do too.
Probably any sound effects that you can't really pinpoint.
It's probably from Revolution 9 because that whole song, air quotes, is sound effects.
Yeah.
And then it transitions into track 5, which is "I'm the Walrus," even getting a George Martin count in at the beginning.
Yeah.
So
you know what? I wasn't gonna say that. I was actually gonna say a different song, but I think this is actually the best simple change.
What's that?
Turning up "I'm the Walrus" just slightly louder makes it sound like such a rock song, and it sounds so good.
Yeah.
All it is it's simple. Like it's just turning the guitars up just a little bit,
or maybe beefing up the bass tracks.
Yeah, that's what it did. I remember talking about the documentary. It makes it sound like such a. I love this version better than the original. It sounds like such a great rock song in this version.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely.
And
I think
it's
simple
definitely change.
I think it's definitely improvement, especially just to the sound of it, because it also does the whole and the second half of the song on Magical Mystery Tour, John is singing in your one ear, and you're like, okay, this feels off balance, but I guess I'll go with it. But then they make sure to even it out in this version, which is so good.
Yeah, it's great, and they also took advantage of messing with a few of the sound effects, like in the middle before sitting in an English garden. You hear all the little voices. Here, I think they turned up a few louder.
Yeah.
So you hear little different things, and especially what they did at the end with King Lear. Like, you heard it in the end, but here maybe, like, from what I remember listening to it back today,
you probably understand it more.
Yeah, you understand it a lot, and also you hear some more lines from the play that weren't as audible.
I think they only got the original recording and used that instead of the because the original on the Walrus is just them turn them on the radio in the studio,
right,
to a random play. I think they really got the original to make it louder.
That would be awesome.
I can't. I'm not that. I may be making that up, but I'm 70% sure that's what they did.
It's possible that they recorded the King Lear broadcast onto a part of the multitrack and just saved that, and then when they had the I'm the Walrus multitrack, just found that and said, oh, there's some bits that weren't maybe as audible in the original. Here, turn those up more.
It was a BBC radio play. It wouldn't have been that hard to dig it up.
Yeah, but BBC did have a bad habit of burning.
Yeah, they don't save a lot of stuff.
I will say, though, they respected their snobby British, like, Shakespeare plays a lot more than they would their children's science fiction television
Look
show.
at Doctor Who. There's so many erased
I know,
episodes.
but the BBC's run by snobs, especially back then. They respected Shakespeare a lot more than they did Doctor Who.
So now that you told me that, that's actually a good point. It's possible they may have actually saved that entire King Lear broadcast.
Yeah. It's probable, even.
Yeah.
But moving on.
Yeah, so moving on, I'm the Walrus ends. Again, not a lot changed, but I agree with Avery. There's a lot that's changed that really makes me appreciate the song a lot more.
I love that it's so simple. but it adds so much to it.
Well, because there's so much going on in the song, maybe you wouldn't want to take a guitar from here because the song already has so much going on in it.
Which I think is also going to be the theme with the next track. I was going to call the next track the best cymbal change, but I think I changed my mind. I am the Walrus.
All right, well, let's move on. Track 6 is I Want to Hold Your Hand. It's only 1.5 minutes. It goes like verse, the middle 8, and then another verse to close it out.
Cymbal change, adding in concert audio. Somehow makes that song so good.
Well, it's trying to recreate, because the Hollywood Bowl concert recording, which is where the audio of the audience comes from, is so notoriously bad. Like, the audio is so horrendous to listen to that all you can really get out of it is the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Which
is all they use. They use that and they play the original version.
Yeah, so that's what, and George Martin has said in an interview, we just wanted to recreate that with the high-quality version of the song from the studio, edited down to what they played live, and then we put the audience noise on top.
It's kind of recreating the show you think you saw.
Right.
Not the show you actually saw.
Yeah.
Funny you mention that because Giles Martin claimed that they also took the audio live version from Hollywood Bowl and synced up almost every millisecond. I don't hear it. I don't hear a live I Want to Hold Your Hand. All I hear is the studio version. I know he said that, but all I've heard for years is just the studio version on this track.
That might be the case, but yeah, that's all we hear.
But from what you told me, the audio probably is so poor you can't really hear the live
Yeah, and if they
version.
did it right, I can't imagine you'd hear it.
Mm-hmm.
But really nicely done. They also took advantage and turned up the harmony vocal, especially on the "And When I Touch You." You hear Paul a lot louder than you did in the original studio version.
Mm-hmm.
So he took advantage of that. I Want to Hold Your Hand. It's great. Not a lot messed with. But with a song like this, would you really want to mess with it that much?
No.
So that's track 6. Track 7, when I first got the album, this was my favorite forever, and it's definitely one of my favorite. It's Drive My Car, / the Word, / What You're Doing, / a bunch of other songs as well.
Yeah. This is another great example of we're going to throw as many things in the pot.
This is one of the other big mashups.
Yeah.
Well, I think
there are maybe how many mashups? There are a couple.
There's a lot.
There's a couple tracks that I would call big mashups, though.
Well, with this one, you start out with "Drive My Car," and you have the horns do 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 from Savoy Truffle coming in,
which is really cool.
Cool. And then you replace the "Drive My Car" guitar solo with the Taxman guitar solo, which when I was 12 when I got that, I was like, what is going on? This is awesome.
Yeah. And I know what you're doing better for this little bit in this than I do for the actual song.
Yeah, it's good to just get in and get out of it as soon as possible.
Well, but I mean, it's more recognizable to me is in this than it is when I actually hear the original What You're Doing.
When I listened to it today, all I could think of was, Paul has said that What You're Doing was a throwaway. He never considered it one of his best songs. I can imagine, when he was at the premiere and he heard this, he was like, oh, great, they're using my throwaway piece. But they use it really well, and I sometimes remember this a lot more than the Beatles for Sale version.
Absolutely.
And then that comes in, and then there's the famous drum intro from What You're Doing, doom 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 into the word, and then you're out in a matter of 2.5 minutes, probably as long as the original Drive My Car was anyway.
Yeah.
Any additional thoughts on this one, Garrett?
I really like the drum part going into the word vocals. Like, just the way they seamlessly transition through each song on this section is so cool.
If I may, after this, you really get a lot of post 1964 Beatles songs, really helping Yesterday the earliest. Maybe this was their chance, I suppose, to get a lot of early Beatles in, because you had I Want to Hold Your Hand, and then you had the 63 through 64 period in this medley.
And even helping Yesterday are a different period than I Want to Hold Your Hand.
Yeah, pretty
they're that transition, Rubber Soul, Help period.
Because not a lot of early Beatles songs before Help really could be in a show like this.
Yeah, that's pretty much it for early songs after this.
Outside maybe little bits out, put little mashup bits.
Yeah.
Yeah, other than
tiny,
not the main
there's
songs.
There's nothing big memorable mashup.
So that's track 7. Track 8 was something that was done by accident, and they kept it in the final version.
This is so cool.
Glass
Here, let's all try to pronounce it. Nickness.
I say Nickness.
Nickness. So what is Nickness?
It's Sun King backward.
In case you couldn't figure it out. Nickness. Copyright.
Oh, we can't.
It's backwards.
You say
he's possessed.
Oh no.
So anyway,
what's so cool about it was that Giles Martin said, "Oh, we should play Sun King, but have the cymbals on it backward. That would sound so cool." And then he accidentally reversed the vocals at the same time as the cymbals, and it started playing. And I went, oh crud, what did I do? And George goes, wait, that's awesome. We should put that in. That's like something John Lennon would do.
I was just gonna say that they just said that. Like John loved backwards. He would have loved to have had this in there.
Yeah, and it improves on Sun King, in my opinion.
It kind of does. Like when when someone, if someone were to come to me and say, "Can you sing Sun King for me?" I would think Nickness and go, "Oh wait, it's that backwards."
Yeah,
because I immediately go to this one first.
right.
Yeah.
And
I can't even picture off the top of my head what Sun King sounds like.
Yeah,
it's so slow.
well, it's part of it's part of a medley. It's not a.
I think that's why it works backwards, because when you're backwards, you have those slow pronounced syllables.
Right. Yeah.
So you can't go.
Yeah, it would just be unintelligible. But with something like this, it almost sounds like a chant of some kind.
Yeah.
Like a foreign chant. So Nickness is really cool, and then it ends, and then you go into track 9, which is Something, giving George his first song on here.
I don't remember what they did to this at all.
The only thing I can think of is that it doesn't open with the do 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 do. It's just Something a cappella for a while, which was really beautiful.
Yeah, it's a really good way to begin the song.
But I just don't have a lot of memories of this version.
Nothing's really changed
Not
during
really.
the song.
No.
Outside of the creepy blue waves transition, I think, but that's almost part of a different thing entirely.
But Something, it's one of the Beatles' most famous songs. I would imagine they were like, okay, we have to put this in the show somewhere.
Yeah.
Because
we can't really mess with it.
No, you really can't. And I mean, Here Comes the Sun is theatrical, but I don't think that's going to be the only George song you're going to put in your show.
No. Gotta pay some respect to old Georgie.
Right. So
Something's so popular. I mean, like that's song Frank Sinatra said was the greatest
Lennon McCartney composition.
Yeah.
But I would imagine this is like a chance for a very like elegant like ballet performance style in the show. Like, Drive My Car is fun up, and the Nickness kind of slows down. Something is the very beautiful dance. That I can picture.
It's maybe romantic in a way that none of the other songs in the album are.
Yeah.
I'm not sure looking at the track, I think the song is quite romantic in the same way that it is.
Not really, no.
Not that I can think of. And
most of these aren't actually love songs.
So this is probably their one chance to, have a very...
This is the romance part.
Yeah, it's that and I Want to Hold Your Hand. I Want to Hold Your Hand is more of a teenage pop. Teenage...
It's upbeat.
The teenage version of love.
It's not really a love song. It's more of this very sort of movie-ized romance.
Right. So something ends again. Nothing really changed. Maybe just turned up a few guitars or bass here and there.
I think they put in the ukulele at the bridge, but that's about it.
Oh, I'll have to listen to that. But as Avery said, it ends, and then you get the drone chord of Blue Jay Way with the Nowhere Man vocals, which I always thought never really fit.
Well,
it's cool, but it's not in the right key.
No, exactly.
I liked it mainly because I think of this transition actually more about what it leads into.
Yeah.
And I think it's really nice and creepy for what it leads into.
Yeah. It is so just, oh God.
Spine-chilling.
Things are happening and you're going into this weird kooky land of mystery.
Because don't they mix up lyrics between Nowhere Man and Blue Jay Way? He's a real Nowhere Man and my friends have lost their way.
Oh!
Don't they do that?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they do that.
Well, there's no lyrics from Blue Jay Way featured. It's just the instrumental. And then
I want to say like they have that line, and my friends have somewhere in there.
Well,
I could be.
Well, that's a lyric in the song, but there are no lyrics from Blue Jay Way featured on this.
Right.
Okay.
But that's a good connection. But then after the
no, it's not a good connection because apparently it doesn't exist.
It does not. But after you hear the vocals, that you hear the bass drum thumps, and you hear laughter, and you hear circus sounds, and almost like you're
Guess who's come to play? It's Mr. Kite and the Traveling Carnival!
Oh, I love the opening drum roll for Mr. Kite.
Yeah. If I'm right, and I'm checking out this and I'm right, will you issue a correction?
What's that?
If I'm right about that line being in there, because I'm 60% sure it's in there.
Well, we'll have
pretty sure it's not.
We'll have people comment below. That way we know people comment on our show. Yeah. So, Mr. Kite, of course, you're gonna have this in a circus show like Cirque du Soleil.
Absolutely. Also because it's a f***ing great song.
I like this version so much better though.
Oh yeah.
This version is just 10 times better.
It's darker.
It's creepier. It's more Marilyn Manson. Almost. Like, they got that. They putting Helter Skelter in there.
Well, yeah,
Oh, well,
and
when
Paul's
you
just
get to the-
screaming.
When you get to
Yeah.
the end part of it, yeah,
Well,
definitely.
as Giles described it, it's the circus gone wrong.
Yes.
Because on Sgt. Pepper, it's all da 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 ba da 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 track ends.
I always thought it was creepy on Sgt. Pepper to begin with.
But it's only creepy in the way that if you find a regular circus creepy. This is a creepy
I'm one
circus.
of those people.
I know, but that's a regular circus you happen to find creepy.
Sure.
This is a creepy circus.
Mhm.
But
This is where that clown from It performs.
yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it just gets so friggin' heavy as soon as I Want You kicks in.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's I Want You with Helter Skelter.
Yeah.
With a laughing track that Giles said they took from Piggies.
Right.
Just on a continuous loop going around.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's really creepy, and it goes on and on, but not in a bad way. It goes on and on. Then all of a sudden, there's just
It just cuts off like I Want You does, but in a different place, so that you're still caught off
I
guard.
actually never put that together.
Yeah, so you're still caught off guard by it, and like, oh, okay, it's over now.
I think this may be my least favorite thing on the album, though, what's coming up next, because it doesn't feel like it belongs in between either of the songs it's in the middle of.
I disagree a little bit, but let's get to that. But first, any additional thoughts on the Mr. Kite? I just think it's brilliant. You have to have it in here, and
Yeah.
I love the idea of it's the circus gone wrong, but more wrong.
Yeah,
So
I bet it's amazing to watch, especially when, I Want You's riff kicks in, and you're like, oh god, I was not expecting this.
I'm sure the lights just change like that.
Oh, yeah.
So it transitions. Like I said, there's a low wind, and then all of a sudden, help kicks in at track 11. This is probably the one that we've been singling out because this is the one from start to finish on the track on the CD. There's nothing to it. It doesn't transition to anything.
Yeah.
It's
I'm sure
help.
there are changes, but I can't think of them for the life of me.
The only thing I could pinpoint was that they extend the final note just a little bit. That's all I got.
And it doesn't really transition to either. It feels totally out of place in between the two songs it's in the middle of. Maybe not the next song, but definitely not out of place after Bang Benefit.
Well, that's what I was just disagree because it goes into Yesterday, the next track, and they're from the same time period.
Yeah.
And I think with Yesterday and with Blackbird, it's very soft, and you need to take a breath after Mr. Kite and help. It's kick ass, but maybe it's not as kick ass as the Dark Mr. Kite. So like it's like that one. We're gonna calm you down just a little.
I
bit.
feel like they want another Mop Top era Beatles song.
Probably.
And this is the only thing they think to throw in there.
Yeah.
It feels kind of thrown in.
After Yesterday, everything is Revolver and beyond.
Yeah, I don't care because Help is a great song.
No,
I know it's a
I
good
love it.
song. I just think it sounds weird on this album.
Sure.
It's probably, I'd call it the weak link of the album.
But I still love listening to it, and even Giles and George admit there really was nothing they could do except just maybe turn up the multi-tracks a little bit and mess with it just a little bit. But
Yeah.
they retained its spirit, I guess is the best way to put it.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so that is track 11. Move on to track 12. This is kind of like the next act, so to speak. It begins with a short instrumental of Blackbird, different pitch. Blackbird's played in G. It's turned down to F because Yesterday is in F,
Right.
and you have to make it seg. And Blackbird and Yesterday were two Beatles songs that Paul did back to back Wings, and I think he even does them back to back now. So actually not now, but he did for a long time, especially in the Wings. So.
He did them in the same set. He did them both when we saw them, though, didn't he? In the
I
same
think
Yeah,
they were-
but he saved Yesterday for the encore.
Yeah, Blackbird was in the middle of the set.
What is it? Because you did
Here Today
you did
was
a
another
couple.
acoustic set.
Okay.
Next
I
to
thought there was three
Blackbird.
acoustic songs he did,
Right.
and that part. I thought it was the third one for the life of me.
But Blackbird
It might have been Eleanor Rigby or something.
Mm.
might have been. But Blackbird Yesterday, I think, is very beautiful. There really is nothing that you can touch with Yesterday.
Yeah, I remember hearing about. I heard an interview, I think, with George, maybe with Giles, about why they said, okay, we've got to put Yesterday in here somewhere because it's Yesterday. It's one of the most famous Beatles songs of all time ever.
Mhm.
But what can we do differently with it? Because we just put in Help and we didn't really do anything with that. And they said, well, let's just put in an introduction to it. And that's where they put in the pitch shifted Yesterday, and it
Blackbird.
works out. Yeah, that's what I meant. Put in pitch shifted Blackbird, and it works out so beautifully, so nicely. I definitely prefer this version over anything else.
It's extremely beautiful, and especially Blackbird as it is on the White Album. There aren't a lot of moments in it where you just get the guitar playing, maybe for a few seconds, and then Paul comes back in with a verse. This is like your chance to hear it as it was for an instrumental, even if it's for a minute and a half, it reminds you what a great guitar piece it can stand on its own.
Absolutely.
So, and it's really nice, really nice job again with the editing on this one. So this goes into track 13, which is Strawberry Fields Forever, and this is, oh my god, this is one of my favorites on this album.
This is my favorite.
This is definitely a really cool piece in that it's the Strawberry Fields that you kind of always wanted but never really knew you wanted.
Yeah, it's how you mentioned earlier. It's a progression. It goes from demo to take 1 to take 2 to final take. Is that it?
Yeah, it's demo, the first take, and then the final version, and then all the montage things at the end.
Well, you say the final version, but it's actually in a different key.
It's a different key, yes, but
yeah.
It's but I love that idea that Giles said. You know, Strawberry Fields is probably the Beatles' best composition in terms of how and arrangement. And so this was their chance to sort of say what made it so big. You know, it started out as just this acoustic thing that John recorded in his house while he was doing How I Won the War, and it became this big production. You know, maybe let's work our way up to it. So you get the demo, you get their first time recording it in the studio, take 1 with the slide guitar, and then you move into the final version. And I think that is a genius idea.
Absolutely. It's especially cool when you know, the original version is awesome. Absolutely. It's just so weird to think of it in terms of this one because they're also so very different.
Like the demo version, they uses so much more haunting almost.
Yeah, but
it's very personal in the way that the final doesn't sound as personal.
Well, right.
Also, I remember I talked to you about Cat Stevens, how I liked how his music builds. This is just the same thing.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing how just unintentionally the takes build and build without even really trying. Yeah. Not the editing, but the original takes in general, because they do go in order, more or less.
I agree. And it's so cool to listen, like, just the story of the original version is so weird and just, like, coincidental. And it's amazing that it worked out, because the Beatles recorded their version of it, and then George Martin said, "Hey, John, listen to this. I made an orchestral version of it." And John said, "Oh, cool. Can you put them together?" And he goes, "John, they're in different tempos. They're in different keys. I don't know if it will work," but it did.
It did.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history. Yeah, and I think this is, like I said, a great build into, it's one of those things where the song was already a masterpiece as it was. It's like, you almost don't want to mess with it, but when you deconstruct it and show the evolution,
right?
Maybe it makes you give it more appreciation than maybe you did, and also, in my opinion, it makes the song a little bit more intimate because you're watching it grow. And this was a song John was extremely proud of.
Yeah, he said, John later said in his life that, man, if I could redo everything in the Beatles, I totally would. And George Martin goes, you would even redo Strawberry Fields? That was amazing. He goes, I would redo the hell out of Strawberry Fields. And I feel that he would probably get something closer to this, because at least now it's in its original key.
Yeah. John flip-flopped on lots of things.
Yeah, he did.
But anyway, it builds, and then at the end, where you just have the drumming and where the song, starts to fade away on the original, you get a bunch of other, as you said, Avery, mashups into here with, I believe, in this order, it goes, so I'm playing Sgt. Pepper, the do-do-do-do-do.
Yeah, the horns.
In My Life, the piano solo.
Right.
Penny Lane, the piccolo.
The piccolo trumpet.
Piccolo trumpet. Then you have Piggies, which Avery was...
I think you missed one.
No, that's what I have.
Piggies and Hello Goodbye.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the order that they go in, and it's in one of those things. It builds, and then it's like, what else can you go from there? And then just put these other songs in here, and I smile from ear to ear.
Yeah.
Listening to this.
And you get the whole end of Hello Goodbye, which, as I was telling these guys earlier, that Hello Goodbye is like the song that really wanted to be on Love, but couldn't just get on there on its own, so it had to put in several parts in various places just to say hi.
Yeah, hello, and then goodbye. It leaves.
Probably because their midsection is mid-Beatles. Sgt. Pepper, Magical Mystery Air is really highly represented in this whole album.
Yeah, definitely.
Looking at the tracks from that.
So that's the Strawberry Fields Forever, and then it leads into what was the first single and the first bit of music that we heard on this album, which was Within You, Without You, Tomorrow Never Knows, which blew my mind in 2006. I never really paid attention to Within You Without You when I was a kid. I always skipped it on Pepper because it was this drawn out thing, and then dun, 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 dun. I was like, okay, it just keeps going. When you bring it up tempo with the Tomorrow Never Knows drums, and then you actually start to pay attention to it. At least I did.
Can I make a side note real quick? I was just counting there. 9 of the 20 tracks are from Sgt. Pepper / Magical Mystery Tour.
Really?
Because I was counting that because it is pretty highly representative, and even if you look at the art, this art is very Magical Mystery Tour, Sgt. Pepper-ish.
Yeah, definitely.
But anyway, Within You Without You, which is from Sgt. Pepper, with Tomorrow Never Knows, blew my mind, and it was something that Ringo said was very smart, taking his drum pattern, which I think Ringo was proud of that drum pattern.
Oh yeah,
I think
it's a really cool.
He was really close to George, and I remember him saying like something like he was really glad he could perform on George's song again. Or something to that extent.
Well, because when George did Within You Without You, if I'm not mistaken, there were no Beatles present.
Yeah.
Yeah, just George Harrison.
And the Indian musicians.
But I know he and George were really close.
Right.
And I feel like he liked that he could work on George's song.
Right.
Yeah, in a very post-mortem way.
Yeah, what I liked about this one was that you could play it on Beatles Rock Band.
It's the only love song, really.
Yeah, and the one thing that I remember Dad telling us about after he saw the show was the visual part of that song, because they put a huge bed sheet over the entire audience and have like these beds in the middle that go up and down, and you'll be under the sheet 1 second and on top of it and another, and there's shining lights all over it, so it looks so cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I didn't know this until recently, that this was actually the audition piece that Giles Martin sent in to Ringo and Paul and said, hey, this is the kind of thing we want to do with the soundtrack for Love. And they both listened to it and said, yes, do more of this. We approve.
I'm glad they said yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because this is a great piece, and the video for this is so wacky, too.
It's trippy.
This is probably my number 2.
This was definitely one of my favorites on the album. I
have one problem with it.
What's that?
It doesn't have the third verse. It should be longer. It should have the third verse from Within You Without You.
That doesn't bother me.
I don't really notice it, so I can't say it bothers me.
That's why I don't notice it, so it doesn't really bother me.
I did not think of that until you brought it up.
Well, I've always really liked Within You Without You, so...
Well, you bring up a good point, because now I listen to Within You Without You after the second verse, I'm like, okay, when I'm 64... there's another verse.
I feel like whenever I listen to Without You, I turn it off and I want to go listen to this version instead.
Well, no,
so that's why I'm not as familiar with the original.
Well,
I always default if I want to hear Within You, I put in Love. I don't put in Sgt. Pepper.
Well, to their point, this was the version that sold me on Within You Without You, and now I say it's one of George's best songs.
Yeah.
Because of this version. Okay, so let's move on. Track 15 is "Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds." This is another one where I was kind of like, okay, yeah, you have to put that in there.
Yeah.
It has a nice intro build up. Besides that, I feel like the biggest change is the intro.
Yeah.
It has a nice slow build up to it.
Because there's all the notes. Trying to figure it out, and then they figure it out.
Nice slow build up, just sort of build, almost like not enough music, it's just building atmosphere.
Yeah,
there are a couple of parts in the album where I'd say it's just building atmosphere, and I really like how it does that.
This is definitely one of the places where that's probably best used. With you get the notes falling into place at first, and then you get the heartbeat sort of bass drum, and then the bass comes in very nice and lazily, and then you get the rest of the song.
Yeah. This has never been one of my absolute favorite Beatles songs. I admitted that when we did our Sgt. Pepper show.
For shame, Thomas.
I don't hate this song. It's never been one of my favorites. I've always thought it was too slow, but having it here because of the atmosphere that the show, I would imagine, creates, and because it's a theatrical experience, I don't mind it. And also because they didn't do a lot of changes with this one. It's never stood out to me like, oh yeah, Lucy in the Sky with Love, they do this or whatever. Really, the intro is the only thing.
The intro's always stood out to me, but I can't say after the intro that a lot of this version stood out to me.
Well, I did like how they put in the brass parts from Sgt. Pepper.
They did?
Yeah, you can hear it during the chorus.
I'll have to go back to listen to that.
Yeah, and they also put in what's it called? The clavier line or whatever from Baby You're a Rich Man. Yeah, you'll definitely hear that. It's in the chorus too.
Okay. And they also do change the ending. It doesn't fade out. You get the and then
it's also, I think the next song also would describe as building itself up really well.
Absolutely.
Which I think is why these two work together so well.
Yes.
They're very different songs.
Track 16 is Octopus's Garden, but it opens with Ringo singing over Good Night,
Yes.
which I think was
But
brilliant.
It's still Octopus's Garden though. He's just singing over the violins from Goodnight.
Right,
Wow.
with his voice slowed down a little.
Yeah, because
it makes such a nice. Octopus's Garden is such a nice lullaby.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
would be warm below the stars.
Yeah.
Garrett, wake up.
Copyright infringement in the shade.
So that was, I think, a brilliant idea because anyone knows, hey, those are two Ringo songs.
Yeah,
And
especially because you hear
also no one knows Goodnight.
Yes.
Except for the hardcore Beatle fans, no one knows Goodnight.
Yes. And then there's you get the background noises of the Yellow Submarine, so I get this sort of mental image of Captain Ringo at the wheel of the submarine.
Yeah, that's almost a more prevalent mashup, because if you ask people to name Ringo Beatles songs, those are the two they'd name.
Yeah.
Yellow Submarine, Octopus's Garden.
Yeah.
And maybe a little help from my friends, too.
Yeah.
Maybe, but I doubt that would be. I bet you they'd name the other two first.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
But then the drums come in from Lovely Rita, da-doom, doom, da-doom, doom, 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 and then the song begins.
That's my friend.
And
Sorry.
No, it's a great song. You
know
can't
what?
not sing Octopus's Garden.
I've never liked Octopus's Garden, but then I heard this version, and I really like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
It made me like a song I don't particularly like.
Yeah, that's what's really cool about Love in general, is that it'll take songs that you're not particularly fond of and then put them with stuff that you really like. And it's just like, whoa, cool!
I feel like
This
it
is so much
both
better than I thought.
embraces the gentle, sweet, and it embraces that campy part of the Beatles sometimes that I love. Like I love, what's the song I love? All Together Now.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like when you get that bit, it feels almost on the same lane of just the Beatles can sometimes go for super campy.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is never a bad thing.
No.
Yeah.
But I love what they did in Octopus's Garden. Keeping that fun atmosphere, even including a lot of the sound effects from Yellow Submarine. Not just they do sing a little bit of the chorus, but also the bubbles because it fits in well with Octopus's Garden. And even during the guitar solo, one thing that struck.
Is that where all the beeps moves from there? The do 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 do.
From this song?
Yeah,
I believe they might be from Yellow Submarine. Because
I want to say there's something from something else.
There is what I was getting to during the guitar solo. You hear John interject all these comments. Musical, sensational,
Fab.
Fab. That's all taken from Polythene Pam.
Oh yeah.
On Abbey Road. And then even
that's really just cut and butchered out then, because those are part of lines, aren't they? They're part of like chorus. Aren't they? I could be wrong. I have to listen to Polythene Pam.
Polythene Pam, John doing in that song, he's just interjecting as they're just playing the instrumental.
Oh yeah,
bit.
that's right.
Like
yeah.
or the guitar solo that fades out Polythene Pam, John's just ad-libbing over it.
Mm-hmm.
So they took that and they stuck it over this song, and also the song doesn't end with the do 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 do. It just ends with you.
Yeah,
it's over. I kind of missed that, to be honest.
I like the way, because again, this builds in really nice to the next song. There's a real blurred line between this and the next song.
And this actually features Sun King at the end of it.
Yeah, you couldn't get away from it. Not even the backwards version will save you from Sun King.
No. It builds really nicely into the next one, which is track 17, which is Lady Madonna. Opens with the
party percussion
from Why Don't We Do It in the Road?
Yeah.
Even having some of the from Obla Dia Bla Da coming in there. Right. And then it builds really nicely, like with the ba 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 and the saxophone solo. And even when you hear "See How They Run," which opens it, I believe it's just John and George singing it.
I feel like the song almost is very representative of the White Album, even though it's not from the White Album. I feel like this is kind of their White Album representative anyway.
Yeah, there's just a lot of things put in there. Yeah, because you've got in the middle of it, you've got "Hey Bulldog," and you've got the Clapton. You got the Clapton solo from "Wild My Guitar,"
which is from the White Album. Which something that, it works so well. Giles said he wanted to put "Hey Bulldog" somewhere in the show, and because not to get too Beatle geeky here, but as I'm sure we know, when the Beatles were working on "Hey Bulldog," a film crew came in to film them. To put those clips for a promotional clip for Lady Madonna, and then years later they found those clips and re-edited them to make a music video for Hey Bulldog. Mm-hmm. So if Beatle Geek is like, that's from the same time period. And so it makes me smile, and hearing Clapton's guitar playing without the rest of While My Guitar behind you sounds incredible.
It's so weird to hear it without the proper quote unquote proper backing track because it just sounds like, where have I heard this on the Beatles record before?
But it sounds great, and at the end they were able to resurrect the saxophone ending, which was there, but Paul said they took it out because he was afraid it was turning it too much into a jazz record.
Sure.
True story. So here, Paul said he was very delighted when they stuck that at the end there.
Yeah.
It makes me smile. This has always been one of my favorite Beatles songs, and it's so playful. And even in the middle where it gets a little dark with Hey Bulldog and Mama Guitar, it still comes off as just a beautiful piece of editing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's track 17. Track 18 is Here Comes the Sun with the Inner Light transition. This is, of the two George songs, this is the more theatrical one. This is another one I'm like, of course you're going to have this in the show.
Yeah.
This has got a real nice opening again.
Oh,
sort of like Lucy.
I so love the intro to this.
Yeah.
What's the sun from?
Here Comes the
Here
Sun.
Comes the Sun.
Oh, you're right. That is from later on. Because I think about it because they take it out of context.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice
I
build.
was trying to think. Is that from Sun King?
No, it's from Here Comes the Sun. And then the tablas, is that from Within You Without You, I believe? That open it.
And you got the who's actually from Oh Darling.
That's right.
It's like, what? Oh, okay.
That's why, because I always think of that as being part of the Sun.
Mm.
That's why I get it mixed up. Okay.
And I think the bass part on there is from the bass part at the beginning is from I Want You. Like randomly, it's like, God,
yeah.
Another example of taking elements from so many different songs and putting them together, and it's brilliant.
Yeah, and the acoustic guitar, when it starts on Abbey Road, there's no percussion behind it, but here, putting it with percussion, it sounds really, really nice.
Oh, yeah. And they don't change much of the song itself.
They don't.
Thankfully.
But one change that I'm glad they did, or they tweaked with, is during the Sun, 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 you hear this sort of fuzz bass sound. Every time the Sun, Sun, Sun comes back around, it goes up an octave, the doo-doo-doo. And I think it does it like 5 times, and there's a new octave every time, which is a lot more audible here, and it just makes me go, that is a great sound. I wish they had used that on the original.
Yeah.
But
what's also cool, I saw a behind-the-scenes clip of when they were doing this, they had Danny Harrison in the studio, George's son.
Really?
And while they were mixing this, they said, well, why don't you come mess around with it and see what you can do with it. And he said, oh, okay. And he turned up one of the tracks, and there was a hidden electric guitar solo that George had thought about putting into the song originally, but it didn't really work out, so he decided not to. But they kept the track on it.
Oh yeah, that's right. And George Martin says, "Oh, forgot about that."
Yeah.
Which is something that is really cool. You're like, it's definitely one of George's best songs, and you listen to it, and you're like, it's so beautiful. How could you put something on top of it, and then you hear the guitar solo, and it's like, wow, I never knew that existed. And yeah, you're right. It sounds a little out of place.
Yeah.
Because it's over the Sun, Sun, Sun harmony vocals, which
Right.
are beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So Here Comes the Sun ends, and it sort of fades into the Inner Light, which I think is really beautiful because the Inner Light, it's kind of like Avery's Octopus's Garden, was never one that I really loved, but just hearing like the little 45-second bit at the end of Here Comes the Sun with the Here Comes the Sun harmony vocals, I was like, again, just made me go, wow, that's really nice. Taking a song I really didn't like and making me like it, so to speak.
Yeah, this is all of the Inner Light that I will ever need.
Yeah,
I have to denounce and reject you too. The Inner Light is great.
No, it's a great song.
I didn't say it was a bad song.
I love the Inner Light.
But when I was 12, at the same time I didn't like Within You Without You. I didn't like
But I
the
think
Inner
I like
Light.
Inner Light for the same reason that I like Living the Material World, the album.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I feel like that's my taste is slightly different than you two.
I mean,
Most people hate Living in the Material World, and I love that album.
no, most people hate it.
Most people dislike it.
He's looking my direction because I don't love that album as much as he does.
I mean, it's not.
Yeah, you freak.
It's not all things.
We will review that album at one point, and
I'm
then you
just
can call me a freak all you want.
I'm just kidding, Tom.
I know.
I mean, it's not all things must pass, but it's not Gone Tropo.
I like it better than all things.
So the next track is Come Together with Dear Prudence and Cry Baby Cry. Another one of John's, best compositions. It's another one that I think, I'm sure they thought we had to have this in the show somewhere.
Yeah, definitely.
And not a lot changed. The only thing I can think of is, when this version comes out of my car as opposed to Abbey Road version, the speakers jump out at me. I think the bass is really turned up hot in this version. Like, I swear when I put this in my car, my speakers are going to explode.
Boom, boom.
It's powerful.
Yeah, when I remember when I was listening to it this time around, I remembered watching that documentary I mentioned about the making of the Love Show.
Was that all together now?
It might have been what it was called.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Okay.
But
I think it's called The Making of Love. I think I own it.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll have to watch it then.
Possibly. But I remember there was this was a point of contention for, they brought Yoko in to say, here's what we're doing with John's stuff. Why don't you come take a look? And they were doing like this really risque sort of dance number and projections with come together, like people feeling each other's bodies.
Oh.
And I was watching it and I was going, this is not what I want to see at a Beatles show. And then Yoko comes and says, this is not what the song is about. This is about a political coming together. And the musical director is going like, well, she hates it. And I'm mumbling to each other like, God, that's her problem. But I'm listening. I'm like, this is the one time that I think I will ever agree with Yoko Ono about something.
Yeah, whenever you hear the phrase Yoko changes John's ideas, it's usually not very popular among Beatles fans.
But for this, I think it was the right call.
Yeah. I'm ew. Okay, let's move on.
Sure.
Yoko.
No!
That's call back to a joke that wasn't recorded.
Oh, no.
That would be my reaction if I saw this in the show. Oh no! All this stuff. But Come Together sounds great. Again, they really didn't do
There's not much you can change about Come Together.
But I like that Dear Prudence gets a little bit of representation.
Oh,
Dear
yes,
Prudence is underrated.
absolutely.
Yeah,
The way that it builds up out for the fade out of Come Together.
And that's just Dear Prudence is generally an underrated song.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
And then it fades out into the Can You Take Me Back from Cry Baby
yeah,
Cry.
I love that.
How it sort of fades away and then you just hear Paul, can you take me back where? Just like very distant in a way.
Cry Baby Cry is this weird, lovely oddity.
Yeah, it's another one of those ones that they keep taking elements from it and sprinkling it all over Love. I'm like, I've heard this song like 5 times, maybe.
You mean talking about Cry Baby Cry?
Yeah.
Cry Baby song's that weird song that I keep forgetting about. Then every time I hear it, you're like, oh God, I love this. And I forget about it. And they go, oh God, I'm like a goldfish.
Well,
Mike
it's
Dory
so
from
weird.
Finding Nemo.
This is the most you'll hear out of it in one place, and it sounds like the ravings of a madman. It's so cool.
Well, the thing is, and not to get too technical, this isn't part of the actual composition, Cry Baby Cry. It's on the track on the CD.
Sure.
So, they're not going to list Can You Take Me Back on the end of the back covers. People are going to be like, oh, is that a new Beatles song or something? No, it's been around forever.
Right.
So that's come together. Track 20, as we discussed before, is Revolution, because this was cut on the CD. On the DVD audio, you get the full thing. This one sounds really good, especially they add like an extra drum beat in the beginning.
Yeah.
And they turned up more of the rhythm guitar in this track, which made me just go, wow, it made this angry rocker angrier in a way.
Yeah, it's so cool to hear, you get the end of the Cry Baby Cry section and it just kind of feels like it's
limping along
and it's gonna fall over, but then when it falls over it kicks you in the ass
pretty
and you get
much
going.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so cool.
It is really cool. Another example of it's a great song, but I don't think there was much they could do with it.
Yeah.
Except, like I said, just mess with the multi-track.
Get the full version of this one if you can, because it's Revolution. Why wouldn't you?
Of course. So then that's Revolution, and then track 21 is Back in the USSR. I do actually kind of like at the end of Revolution when it falls apart, you get that steady drum beat going, and then you get the guitar riff just a lot faster into Back in the USSR.
Yeah.
It's a really great transition, and another great example of editing that Giles and George did.
Yeah, man, they just keep the momentum going, keep on chugging it. Again, get the extended version if you can.
Right. Back in the USSR, it's
not much different.
Not much different. The only thing that caught me is that you hear Paul's ad-libs at the end much more audible.
Yeah.
Like in the White Album version, you can kind of hear them, but it's going underneath the bed of music. Here you get them, at the forefront, which sounds incredible. Avery, any thoughts on Revolution and Back in the USSR? Okay.
I didn't even bother speaking. No, they're fine.
Yeah.
They're what they are.
They're really good.
They didn't really change anything.
Yeah. I feel like the passes for quite a few near the end.
Yeah. I mean, it gets to the point where it's like, these are the really big ones that you probably can't.
What we got left is we got those two. We got A Day in the Life, Hey Jude, Sgt. Pepper Part 2. You know what I mean? And All You Need Is Love. And there aren't really a lot of made changes to any of these.
No.
Not
Maybe
a
the end
lot.
All You Need Is Love, because Hey Jude is shorter.
Well, Hey Jude
It's
is
shorter.
cool stuff in the middle of it. We'll get to that.
Right.
Okay.
And plus, Hey Jude and Day in the Life, those are two, like you said, they have.
They're like the masterpieces back to back.
And they're like, you have to put them in the show.
I can't think of what's different with Day in the Life. Is there anything different on Day in the Life?
Just the beginning of it, but we'll get to
We'll
that.
get to that.
Oh, the Sugar Plum Fairy.
Right.
Yeah, I like that. I do like that.
Well, speaking
Going out of order.
Well, speaking of different things, track 22 is where George Martin shines the best.
Absolutely.
This is While My Guitar Gently Weeps, not the White Album version, because the director, whose name I don't know right now, wanted to use it, but he didn't want the White Album version. It was too hard.
Oh, the director of the show?
Or the musical director, one of the two.
His
So
name
he's
is
Circus Delay guy.
his name is Guy Laliberté.
Okay, well, and he knew George also.
Yeah, they
So
were
Guy Lally.
George actually, I believe, pitched the idea of the show.
right. It was George Harrison's idea to have a Cirque du Soleil Beatles show, and Guy said, "Yeah, we should do that." And then George died and said, "Yep, we need to do that."
But with this one, he wanted to use the track, but he was in love with the demo that George recorded, which you can find on Anthology 3.
Mm-hmm.
But Olivia came in and said, well, if you use it, it sounds, for lack of a better word, kind of boring. And
Sparse.
it's
anyway.
very sparse. It would definitely bring the music down a bit.
Yeah, what can you do with this? And George Martin said, well, there's not really anything that fits with it in the catalog. So this is the only song on the entire Love album that features something new, which is George Martin's string arrangement that goes behind it.
Absolutely beautiful.
Oh, yeah, it's gorgeous.
This made me appreciate the song a lot. I always appreciate the song. This made me fall in love with the intimacy of this song.
Absolutely.
This was a song that George was very passionate about. You can tell he loved it just from the demo. But this, with the lush strings behind him, it makes you just wonder what this track could have been. And I'm so glad that we have this version.
Yeah.
I'm going to be of the dissenting opinion.
I know you like
I don't like the strings very much.
Well, yeah, I listened to...
I like the... Was I saying this somewhere else?
Yeah,
The
I
Sad
listened-
Songs episode.
I listened to
Yeah.
the Sad Songs episode last night, and you were saying the same thing.
I don't remember what I say.
You were saying basically that you don't think it's necessary and that you like the electric version better.
No, it's not even that. I do like the electric version, but I like the regular acoustic demo better.
Oh, okay.
Than the strings.
I think, well, a great song is a great song, and I like
I think
I like all
Martin-
three
I
versions.
think Martin was they both have both two have merits. I don't think the string version has any merits. But that's a personal opinion.
Well, I think
Yeah.
both the demo and the regular and the studio version were both George's work. This one was both George's, Harrison and Martin.
Mm-hmm.
But it got Olivia's approval, and you have to imagine Olivia would not approve anything if George didn't like it.
Right.
I have a feeling George would have loved to have heard this,
Mhm.
and
I just think the strings make it sound more produced and less intimate.
I disagree.
I disagree
I know.
a little.
Like I said,
just
I
a little
see
bit.
where you're coming
like
from.
I said,
but
I'm going to be a
disagree.
dissenting opinion on this.
Yeah, it's fine.
But
That's the thing. The opinions of myself does not reflect the opinions of the other.
pretty much.
You'll be the dissenting opinion. I like that.
Yeah.
But there really is not much I can say without repeating myself. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah,
and,
this has a high probability of making me cry on a given day.
and what's also really
You know what
nice.
I think it might be? It might be because I think the original demo sounds a lot like what was to come with George Harrison's solo work,
Maybe.
and I feel like this makes it something like the Beatles, not just Beatles, but like even Beatles pre like Sgt. Pepper era Beatles song.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of miss that original version because I think it sounds very later George. It sounds like something that could have come off like Living the Material World or All Things Must Pass.
I can see that because Living in the
Yeah.
Material World is a very acoustic album.
Especially since some of its sibling demos actually are songs from All Things Must Pass.
Right.
Well, if you're a big fan of George like me and you listen to officially released and even unofficially released demos, George had tons of great demos.
Mm.
And this was one of them, and this is just one of the that I think it worked. It was, you took a demo and you actually made it into a song that is just as beautiful as what it actually became.
You know what I feel like it would have maybe liked better if they had like a classical acoustic guitar instead of strings.
You know what? I'd be on board with that.
I'd like to hear it, but I don't know if it'll,
Because I feel like
Make it better
maybe
for me.
guitar, but you don't want an electric, obviously, because that ruins what you're going for. But like if it were a guitar instead of strings, I feel like strings sound really weird to me on my guitar. Might just be just also the little island of wow my guitars as you're playing the strings.
Okay. Well, one thing that the strings do well is that they end it, on a really, really nice note. And it's just really beautiful, and it makes me really happy to hear it every time.
Yeah. And then they end that with a nice little bit of studio chatter to make sure, like, okay, we're done being sad for just a little bit. Let's bring in some levity.
That's right. Next track, A Day in the Life, opens with John's studio chatter.
A very happy song about a car wreck.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He opens and even opens it with the Sugar Plum Fairy. And
that's a great count.
It's a great count.
I love that.
Yeah.
I do that sometimes because I adore that count in.
It's such a John thing.
Totally. So this is A Day in the Life, as we were getting to. There really wasn't a lot that was changed. The only thing I can think of is they just changed a few multi-tracks, made a few things louder.
Yeah, I think they bumped the volume on the strings and the orchestral passages, but that's just it.
And also the breathing, and that no side was late. It goes speaker to speaker.
Oh yeah,
which it doesn't do in the original. So again, Day in the Life, it's one of the Beatles' absolute best songs. I would think they thought we have to put this in here.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, it's one of those you can't add or alter anything about it to make it better. It's the Day in the Life. It's already pretty much perfect.
It is. So that's Day in the Life. Track 24 is Hey Jude. It's shorter. It doesn't have the last verse, I believe. And this one,
I think a lot of the middle, Hey Jude, on and on. A lot of the improvising in the middle.
That's where
because this is half the length, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
that's where they do the most changes. There's a few bars where the music drops out and it's just the na-na-na chorus with Paul's ad-libs, which sounds incredible.
That's such a cool breakdown. It's like, that's what Paul should be doing live, with Hey Jude, instead of like now I want you to say it, and I want you to say it, and I want you to say it.
I feel like that's the fun of Hey Jude, though.
Sure, that's the fun of it.
I feel like making it short, not that it's bad in here, but I feel like it almost defeats the purpose, because Hey Jude is very like I think it's the antithesis of a crowd song.
It is. It's a brotherhood song.
That is the pull out your lighter, pull out your cell phone song.
Sure.
Are you saying you want?
I guess what I should have said is like, if the next time that he does a live album, this is what he should do on the night that he knows they'll be recording.
Yeah.
So
are you also suggesting he should ad lib more, like over the?
No, I mean like the breakdown where everything goes out except for the drums.
He still ad libs a lot.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
When he does this,
I knew we're great.
New York City.
Yeah, at the end, in between every now, he's always going, one more time, here we go. Oh, Paul, we love you. But Hey Jude on here is great. Another example of it's the Beatles.
It's the other masterpiece.
Other masterpiece.
Yeah, I feel like this version may be slightly inferior to the original just because of the way they edited it down.
Maybe.
Yeah, it sounds weird because people often say Hey Jude's too long. But I feel like this version's too short.
It could be that because maybe they don't want to tire you out because you do have 2 more songs left.
Yeah, we're getting to the end of the album.
If it were up to me, I would put in the last verse and keep the na-na-na chorus just the way it was on this album.
I don't know if I would put it in there just because it's very hard. I think it's hard to translate this into this format.
Right.
Because Hey Jude is very much a crowd song.
It is.
It's very much a sing along.
So track 25 is the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band reprise, coming out of Hey Jude. Paul's counting 1, 2, 3, 4, and then going into the guitar riff. It just sounds incredible.
And the brass.
Nice. It sounds incredible. I love it.
Yeah.
It's nice to see that framing device that the Sgt. Pepper put in here.
Yeah. It's like you're watching a show. We know that.
Which is sort of the idea of Sgt. Pepper.
Yeah.
Okay. But Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band reprise.
Again, not much has changed.
It's still great. I think it fits tonally here a lot maybe better than some of the songs we've been talking about previously.
Right.
It's a song you have to put to say we're wrapping up the show.
Sure.
And like I feel like the Love in general is heavily influenced by Sgt. Pepper Magical Mystery Tour era.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's fitting that it's in here. Which is maybe why I think some other songs don't sound kind of weird because they're not from the same era.
Yeah.
And they try to make them sound more like they're from that era.
And like really the only thing that was changed about this song is they made the ending not crossfade with A Day in the Life.
Right.
And so instead, doesn't it still crossfade with?
No, it's a cold ending.
Yeah.
And then the last track 26, very appropriately, is All You Need Is Love.
How else would you end the show?
Okay, doesn't it like cold stop and go down, go straight to the horns though?
There's like a few seconds of silence.
Okay, because I remember it being a fairly natural transition, but memories has rose-tinted glasses. All that jazz.
So anyway, the last track is All You Need Is Love. As you said, it has to be the closer.
I mean, yeah.
And there wasn't much done to change the main part of the song.
Yeah.
We'll get to the end, but what a great closer. And this is one of those, like, if people want to make fun, the Beatles did love songs. Well, listen to All You Need Is Love. It's like, how can you not sing along to it, or how can you not be happy listening to it? It's
I will say there's a great scene in The Prisoner where they're going to this gunfight at the very end, the climax, and like he's going to get ready for the final battle, and it's just All You Need Is Love's playing. So I kind of associate that with All You Need Is Love with violence now.
interesting.
It's some movies do that with weird dispositions where they play a really happy song for really dark stuff.
Yeah.
Garrett, thoughts on this one?
I mean, I just like the end of it.
Yeah.
Because that's where the cool stuff happens.
I will say, like I've been saying a couple times, I'm beating Dead Horse. This album is highly influenced by that era, so it seems fitting that it ends on that.
Mm-hmm. But even at the ending, some of the bits they put in, some of them aren't even from this era. You have the guitar riff from Ticket to Ride, the Rain vocals. You do get the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
And then don't you get like the goodbyes from like one of the Christmas recordings?
Yeah, the third Christmas album.
Yeah,
which I have to think, that because that's something that is available, but it's now you have to listen to it online, and it was available to the fan club because they said we're only taking available sources. I bet you there are people who probably heard this and never have heard those Christmas messages.
Yeah, definitely.
So
I just thought it's a really great way to end the show with them being silly.
Yeah. Show's over, guys. Show's over.
If you hear George Martin's original reason why he told Paul to write Sgt. Pepper Part 2, it's very much this. Like he said, Paul used to go to the stage and say like, "We're gonna go to bed now. Good night." He used to do like this just very silly. We gotta go to bed. Good night.
Yeah,
and that's his way to say goodbye to the audience.
And that's why Paul wrote the reprise.
Yeah, so George suggested he write the reprise.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
and I feel like it's sort of fitting that just as it's so heavily George made, it ends with that very same idea at the end of All You Need Is Love.
With the goodbye over good night.
This is Johnny Rhythm saying good night to you all, and God bless you.
And I just love how there's like, oh, wonderful job, John, wonderful job.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It comes across as very much George Martin.
Yeah,
it seems like one of the places you can really see his stamp.
Like, this is where he's dropping the microphone in the studio.
But then this is his style.
Yeah,
In some ways, the other beats are mimicking Beatles style, but I feel like this is very George Martin.
Especially since Good Night is George Martin's orchestration.
Yes, definitely.
And so it's a wonderful, wonderful closer. It makes me smile every time.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the album. When the album was released on iTunes years later, they added 2 bonus tracks, which are The Fool on the Hill and Girl. A Fool on the Hill is another one that they didn't do much to change it except just the intro to the song.
Yeah, both of these are,
fairly
pretty minimal.
They're good, they're interesting. I don't know.
They're bonus tracks.
Yeah. It'd be nice to see, like, if they do revamp the Love Show like they do, it'd be nice to see where, like you were saying, it'd be nice to see where they drop these in.
Also, Love is such a whole piece that's hard to judge to a song.
Yeah.
So that's its own bonus island.
Mm-hmm. And then the other track, Girl, there was a little bit more that was changed. They added the And I Love Her guitar riff.
Yeah, that's cool.
There were
extra drums from Mr. Kite.
Oh, that's right. So
it adds a little more variety to the drum beat from Girl, which is very standard, very not much is changing. It's one of the little it's the little things.
Yeah,
that's why this is.
I find it hard to judge them as part of Love because they're not.
Yeah, because
and Love I partly judge as a whole piece. I don't just judge as individual tracks.
Sure.
It's even like I said, this track I don't know what to say about this track. It's because I kind of judge this as a whole piece. Mm-hmm. Even when I say some of these tracks they don't do a lot or they feel weird, it all still works as a whole piece. Yeah. So it's hard to judge a bonus track as what it would have been like because you don't really know.
Right.
And the 2 bonus tracks are theatrical songs in a way. Fool on the Hill and even Girl. It's John, telling a story.
Right.
So I can see why these are ones that I think I'm sure, like you said, Hello Goodbye. I'm sure it could have been in the show.
Well, yeah, they were designed to be on the album, but they didn't have enough space or something, and Giles said, "Oh, but can we please just put girl in?" And they're like, "Oh, no, we can't."
Were these released to the original release? The release came out later with like a
I
re-release.
believe they came out when the album was on iTunes.
On iTunes.
So this wouldn't
like
have been when it first
2011.
So this would have been a later added thing.
Right.
Yeah.
No, they're originally there obviously, but they didn't. There was not original thought to release them.
Right.
I would imagine they were.
If that made any sense.
I would imagine.
I
I was gonna say. I would imagine they were done at the time, and like you said, they just probably had.
They were on the cutting room floor.
Yeah,
until
it feels
then.
like digging through what they had on the cutting room floor more
Yeah.
than.
Hey, we found deleted scenes. Here they are.
Which
So-
is what actually I want from bonus tracks. I don't like it when it's like we took two of the songs off so you could have them on the bonus edition. It feels like the thing with like when you have video games and they have like we took this guy out because we want to make him day one DLC.
Oh God.
Well,
I will say I do.
You want to play Ryu in Street Fighter? He's day one DLC.
God. I do think
that's not really That's not really true, but
I
You
do
know what I
think
mean.
that these two are worth buying. If you really like Love, you'll enjoy these. Especially Glow on the Hill, I think has really creepy intro to it, really moody.
Yeah. it does.
And I also like how they put in the Mother Nature's Son bits in the middle of it.
I'll have to go back and listen to that. But yeah, I really do like these bonus tracks.
Don't they have Lily and Mother Nature's Son as part of a chorus? It's been so long since I heard.
Of
I
Unfull on the Hill.
I have to listen to Full on the Hill. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Okay. Well, those are the bonus tracks, and that's the album. Do we want to rate the album?
Sure. One of you guys do it first.
I rate this. I want to go home out of I want to go home. I'll give it a perfect score. Whatever.
Same.
10 out of 10.
I give it 5 Mr. Kites out of 5.
I'm gonna go with 4 out of 5 TARDISes on this one. Definitely a great. 4.5. I'll go 4.5 for this. Definitely a great album. It's like the last time we heard new Beatles music was in 1995 or something, and now we hear it's not entirely new, but it's new enough that you're like, wow, this is so cool, and it's a great love letter to the Beatles themselves as songwriters,
Absolutely.
arrangers, and composers, but also definitely to George Martin and his talents as a producer.
Yes.
And his sons as well.
Oh, yes. So there you go. George Martin, once again, thank you, sir, for your incredible work, not just here, but with the Beatles and all musicians, your influence that many other producers and musicians took notice. And thank you, sir. Rest in peace.
I'll add a side note. If you want to look up a really interesting George Martin score, he did the score for Live and Let Die.
Oh,
I'm not talking about the track, I'm talking about the actual soundtrack of the movie.
Oh,
It's a really good soundtrack. If you want to hear some George Martin unrelated Beatles, I'd recommend picking up Live and Let Die.
And George Martin has an album, quote unquote, he has an album. It's other people, but it's called In My Life. It's people that George Martin had wanted to work with for a long time that are doing Beatles songs. You have Robin Williams, Jeff Beck.
Another great person we lost too soon, Robin Williams.
Absolutely. Jim Carrey, John Williams, not the film composer, the classical guitarist, John Williams.
Oh.
But he does Here Comes the Sun.
He sings Star Wars. He
No,
sings da 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 da.
he does it on the guitar.
And you also have some more comedians. You have Billy Connolly doing Mr. Kite and Sean Connery doing In My
Did you
Life.
say Jim Carrey?
Jim
Yeah.
Carrey does I'm the Walrus, which I've always liked because it sounds like a man going mad.
I mean,
And
it's
that's
Jim
the
Carrey.
it is a nice little side of thinking when the near the end it's like
I ruined a masterpiece.
no, it's like isn't it something about the Shroud of Turret? Like now I pinned a message on the Mona Lisa
Yes,
by
he says
using the
that.
sound of turret as a drop cloth.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
I love that. It's like I ruined a great piece of music. I painted a mustache on the Mona Lisa.
Oh.
By using the shroud, what's it called? The Shroud of Turin.
The Shroud of Turin.
Yeah, the Shroud of Turin as a drop cloth.
Oh man.
Thank you, Jim Carrey, and
Oh,
thank you, George Martin. And so that is our show. Please subscribe to Triple Threat on YouTube if you haven't. Check out the other episodes of the show. Check me out on Twitter. I'm at It's Only Tom. There's an underscore in between each word, and there's no apostrophe. You can find Avery on Twitter at.
Twitter. Just look at the Twitters. I don't care today.
It's just
It's
Sherlock Lord, isn't it?
Just I don't know. Go
Okay.
follow me in my house.
At
Okay.
Sherlock
I
Lord
don't care
for Avery.
anymore.
And then go check out Garrett's page on YouTube.
Yeah, and I'm also writing a blog right now. You can go to my blog at garretthicks.oucreate.com.
Awesome. So do all that. If you have heard Love or if you've seen Love, let us know what you thought of it in the comments below. And also let us know.
If you've ever been loved, keep it to yourself because it's really depressing.
Oh, oh God.
Okay, all right. I think you've had enough.
I think Avery wants to go home.
All right. So thank you very much. Are you done? Okay, get it out, guys.
You're making me laugh, bro.
No, this is the end of All You Need Is Love. We're just laughing and laughing the whole time. So that is the end of our show. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Tom Rutia, and joining me has been Avery Spencer.
Yeah.
And Garrett Hicks.
No, he hasn't.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, everyone. Rest in peace, George Martin, and we will see you all next time.